Could you survive a financial crisis? 60% of people cannot. My question for you is, if your paycheck stopped tomorrow, how long could you last before running out of money? How long could your business last? Most people don't know, and that's exactly why they struggle. The truth is, financial stress is not just about numbers. It's staying up at night and the anxiety around not knowing, and feeling trapped inside a cycle where money controls your life. Today, we're going to put your finances to a test with this financial stress test. And at the end of this video, you'll know exactly where you stand and the exact steps that you're going to need to take going forward. So the first step is start with your income breakdown. Every single piece of income that you might have coming in needs to go on one sheet. So the first thing for most people is going to be their primary job salary as an example. So in this example, it's $4,000 a month. This would be net of all taxes and everything else. This would be pure income coming in from whatever paycheck you might get that you either get in person or automatically deposited. The second one would be side hustle, which hopefully you guys have. In this particular example, we're going to use 500, some passive income from dividends or rents or things like that for another 300, and then just other income of 200. Hopefully you're more diverse than just your salaries. But in this example, this person's sitting at $5,000 a month. That is their total net income each and every month. So now you know if your expenses are more than this, you're going backwards. If they're less than this, then hopefully you're building some reserves. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Now let's get into expense breakdown, because of course there's this income minus expenses equals cash flow. This is no different than a real estate deal. In a real estate deal, we have rents and all the other things, and you have expenses for whatever property you own, but it's the exact same process. So this is just you personally. If you cannot master this, you're going to have a very difficult time buying real estate or running a business or anything else, because all businesses and all investments have these two basic principles. So now that we're talking about expenses, you can see in this particular example, they're about $3,850. So your rent's at about $1,500, or your mortgage, I guess it could be. You got your groceries at $600, your car payment, all the things that you might want go onto this list. One glaring thing that's missing here is fun stuff. These are just basic expenses. In this particular scenario, you're saving just over $1,000 a month. So you simply take the $5,000 minus your expenses, and you can see $1,150 in positive cash flow a month. Now, a couple things to consider here. Most people focus a lot on expenses. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but I firmly believe that you shouldn't have to cut up your credit cards and forego a cup of coffee at a local coffee shop. I think to move the needle, you should focus on your income. You can really control your income. Even though you have the illusion that you can really control expenses, you really can't. The only thing you can do is forego some things and not enjoy life. In the last slide, you saw that there were over $500 per month just servicing some kind of debt, credit card debt, student loan debt, whatever it is. In many cases, this is very large for a lot of people. And this is what actually keeps them out of the asset investment market, buying a house, buying investments for cash flow, because most of the time they're just barely treading water. Bad debt is any kind of debt that is really expensive. So think of 18, 20, 22% debt. That's the kind of stuff you want to eliminate. And the only way to do that is to pay down principal. And then they accumulating that, and all that happens is their positive cash flow each month continues to dwindle. The other thing I want to talk about is the emergency fund. So if you don't have one, you need to have one. So a lot of people consider this savings. That's fine. Doesn't really matter where you have it. The big issue here is that if you only have $5,000 in an emergency fund, this only covers you for about a month and a half. That's it. So in my personal businesses, especially when COVID hit, we had to take a look at all our cash because we didn't know if all the renters were going to pay rent or not. So my partner and I, Ross, we had 3 months of cash at that point to be able to cover mortgage payments. Just because tenants might have stopped paying doesn't mean that we don't have to pay our expenses. So the exact same scenario happens at a personal level. So think of the federal workers right now, especially around DOE. So if you were just one of those workers, you would probably have all those expenses, but then potentially your income might go away at some future point. So how are you going to replace that? The only way to replace that is through emergency funds. So the very first thing that you need to do is get yourself comfortable with some kind of emergency fund. Personally, I like 6 months. In this particular case, that's about $20,000. Now, I know for a lot of you that might seem like a lot. But trust me, if you can just get that done, you're going to be in a much better situation. And you're going to be in a situation where you can make better decisions on maybe you want to grow your side hustle, or maybe you even want to look for a job that pays you an extra $10,000 or $20,000 a year. Whatever it might be, it just gives you a little bit of financial freedom. When you have no emergency fund, you're literally moving paycheck to paycheck. And the issue is that you now have a gun to your head because you only have 1.3 months to replace that income. And by doing it, you even fall behind. Once you put yourself through this financial stress test of income minus expenses, and you now know your cash flow, you now at least know where you stand, and you can create a game plan goal. Step number one is assess your finances. But number two is you got to kind of create a plan. You got to sit down and be intentional on creating a plan so that you don't have this financial stress. The very first step to creating a plan is to create a cash cushion. Now, what this is a 3 to 6 months of expenses cushion. Now, I know for a lot of you, this might seem like a lot. You might have to make some financial changes, but that really is the whole point. And trust me, when you get to this point, you're going to sleep better, you're going to feel better, and you're going to be in a position to make a lot different kinds of decisions around side hustles or even your primary job. The next step is to eliminate all high interest debt. Credit card companies get you. They give you easy credit to get you in debt. And what you really want to do is pay down that principal each and every month. I certainly got into this when I got out of college. Both my kids got into this when they got out of college. The credit card companies give you a free credit card for the first time in your life. You could charge things, but it comes with a cost. And today that cost is an 18 to 20 to 22% per month. So if you have a $10,000 credit card balance, you could be paying over $2,000 a year just to tread water and to break even. So the very first thing that you want to do after you start building up a little bit of cash cushion is start to pay down the principal on those credit cards so that you now can eliminate that. Because in that particular example, that was nearly $500 a month. And you'd rather have that as part of your cash cushion or into your reserves itself. The next step, of course, is to figure out ways to increase your income or reduce your expenses. So let's focus on the unnecessary spending. Especially in today's world, what we find ourselves doing is signing up for all these creative subscription services as an example. So think of Prime and Hulu and Netflix and all of those things that you just have to do to watch something these days. Those all catch up to, even though they might be $9.99, $19.99, $29 a month, those are all things that can catch up with you. Another one, of course, is just impulse buying. So when you go to the grocery store or you just go to a mall or you go to any kind of store, just try to refrain from the impulse buying, because that stuff you're buying, you probably really don't need it. So I have a kind of a bucket of, do I really need it, or am I just buying it because I think I need it? So it's a want versus need decision. So that's another thing that you're going to have to figure out. That's another habit that you're going to have to break. But what I like to do is I like to focus on income. Others would be just ordering food online and having it delivered, or bottled water, or things that are just being delivered. Right now, things are so easy. They just get delivered to your door. And these little things add up. But what I really like to do is I like to focus on income. And everybody wonders, like, well, I'm in a job, I get 2 or 3% increase each and every year. But really, I'll tell you, from an employer standpoint, how do you make more money from an employer? You become valuable to them or invaluable to them. That's how. You develop a skill, whatever it might be, but something that the employer can't live without. When the employer realizes that if you leave, you're going to be very hard to replace, then now all of a sudden, you're in an extremely good position to be able to renegotiate or command a very high salary. And how you do this is just go on YouTube, go to trade schools, or go to weekend seminars or whatever it might be, just to try to develop a skill and bring it back to the company, and you start saving your company a bunch of money. Now that could be video editing, it could be graphics, it could be website design. It doesn't really matter what it is. It could be shooting videos like this. I'm telling you right now that if you're going to make more money, You have to dive in, determine wherever you're working, how they make money. You either need to figure out how you're going to make them more money or how you're going to save them money. And once you figure that out, in their eyes, you're going to be very, very valuable to them. And you'll probably even move up the ladder because they're going to realize that losing you is going to be a real problem for them. I'll give you an example. Let's say you're in an administrative role somewhere and you're sitting there and you have the pulse of the company and you're looking at all the expenses they've got for the copy machine, and all the supplies and all the things that are coming in, all the people, all the vendors that are rolling through the company that particular day. If you took the initiative and you just take a little bit of initiative and you're trying to help the company actually make some money, somebody's going to take note of that. You'll be rewarded in the short term and in the long. The next thing is to start investing. Now, I know in this particular situation, that's probably the last thing on your mind. But here's the reality. Most people that are this tight spend, then invest. You need to twist this around and you need to start looking at investing and then spending what's left. So investing should actually not be at the end. It should be at the beginning. Now, I also understand that you have expenses. You should always be looking at things to invest in. And there's all kinds of things that you could be doing. One of the easiest things in the world you could be doing is just buying silver coin. So we started giving out silver coins in our company years ago. At the time, we were buying them for $18, $20, $25. And as of today, it's up over $30. Now, that was a gift from me because, again, I just am trying to get everybody to realize anybody can go out and buy a 1 ounce silver coin for $20, hold on to it and throw it in their safe if they have. And that thing has and will continue to grow based on what's going on in the economy and the money supply. And gold is the same way. It doesn't have to be a gold or silver coin. It could be Bitcoin. It could be a stock. It doesn't really matter. But the point is you got to get into the game. Both my sons have very small stock portfolios in the $2,000 to $3,000 range. Just the fact that they're watching it and we're discussing it is all that matters. It's just being in the game. Just realize that you too can be in the game. You don't have to put a bunch of money into the stock market. You don't have to put a bunch of money into the real estate market. You just have to take an active role in your own investing, even if it's at a very small level, and it always starts at a very small level. And from there, what you want, of course, is to build multiple streams of income. Because what will happen is maybe you make a little bit of money on Bitcoin. Maybe you'll make a little money on gold and silver. And maybe you save up to buy that first rental house or that condo or whatever it might be. And now you've got some passive income coming in. It doesn't really matter, but multiple streams of income are better than one. The last thing you want to do is be reliant on a paycheck. Just ask all those federal workers who are now being eliminated through Doge. They obviously never saw this coming. What they're going to rely on are the multiple streams of income. And if they only have one, then of course it becomes a problem. It creates stress and anxiety. And the last step, of course, is to scale your passive income until it replaces all your expenses. And now at that point, you're financially free. In this particular case, with this example, the goal would be to grow your passive income to about $4,000 a month. And at that point, you're financially free. What you want is your passive income to $4,000 a month, not only your W-2 or your salary. You want your passive income at $4,000 a month. So that way, you're working where you want. Your passive income is covering all your financial expenses. Now you have the choice to be able to grow your side hustle, go to the job you want, or not even work at that job at all. It's just completely up to you. But you got to build your base of passive income. That's how you're going to get out of the rat race. That's how you're going to become financially free. And it's a long process. This is not immediate. This is not going to happen over just a couple of months. It's going to take a short-term and a long-term plan to break old habits and create new habits. But trust me, once you get to that point, once you get financially freed, you will never turn back. Some of them you'll do on a bigger scale, and that could potentially even become the path of your future. The goal here is to not simply and solely rely on your job or your W-2 income. So if this financial stress test finally made you realize that you too need to take control of your financial future, then I highly encourage you go to our Limitless conference this year in Dallas, Texas. At this event, you're going to learn from top investors, entrepreneurs, and financial experts on exactly what they're doing and what you should be doing in the coming future. You'll get real actionable strategies on investing and how to get cash flow. If you'd like to buy a ticket, you can right now. Just click on the link below. There are 3 levels of money management, from your paycheck to building wealth. If you're stuck trading time for money and want to build passive income, this next video could change the way that you think about money forever.